Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to yet another event of live stream. And before we start, we have the Slido link and a QR code here. Please head on to the slido.com, enter the code, or scan this QR code via your phones. You can ask any questions throughout the live stream, and we also have a poll that you can also answer. I will wait for a few seconds, maybe 2 or 3, to let people join, and while I talk about what we have in live stream today. So today's topic is very interesting, something that we all have been talking about or hearing about very recently. So it's AI for PMs. Everybody is thinking how to implement AI into their products, whether it's generative AI agents, etc. But we also don't know how to do it without a big budget, right? When you usually talk about AI, what comes to mind is that we need a huge budget. So today we have Thomas Tanner with us, who will be talking about how to do it without a big budget, right? And so we before I hand it over to Thomas, I would give a very brief intro about me. I'll keep it super short. So my name is Batul. I am a product management consultant here at Product People. I have about 7 years of experience in product management. I have worked on products in B2B and B2C, around 7 to 8 products during this time as well. And yeah, that's me. And a little bit about Product People. So we are a product management consultancy. We do interim product management, product ops, and transformation acceleration. That's how we make money, and how we give back is via sharing our knowledge generously. We do free events like this one. We do CPO dinners. We also do breakfast. We also do product tanks, etc. And that's how we give back to the community. Okay. And with this, let's go over the poll. So we have a small question for you. How far along is your product with AI today? Have you already shipped AI-powered features? Are you still prototyping or experimenting, or you haven't touched AI at all yet and still exploring how to do it? Like I mentioned, we have a slido.com code and a link as well, and a barcode as well. Please head on to slido.com, and yeah. Okay, let's wait for the votes. Okay. All right. So majority votes we have is either people have already shipped AI-powered features, which is amazing, or they're still prototyping or experimenting. Goes to the fact that everybody is sort of very into AI these days, and also excited about what AI can bring to the products currently. And with that, I would actually hand it over to Thomas. And yeah.
Thank you, Batul. Yeah, I want to show you today a little bit what we at DFKP have already built and what we're planning on building. It's it's a little bit separated in between what we have built for the business. We will touch that just for a couple of seconds, and then I will show to you how we actually use AI in our day-to-day work as product managers and in IT. Can you share my slides? Perfect, thank you. My name is Thomas. I'm a CPO at DFKP since the beginning. I come to that in a minute. And I want to start the whole thing with one idea is that AI isn't the future itself. It's already changing how we work, especially for big tech companies. And then one amazing example, and everyone in tech is talking how much hours they saved and how many developers they don't need. Every tech CEO is competing against each other there. But I think one example I picked today is Amazon. They said, okay, they save around 4,500 years of work. And for a very specific use case, they have migrated over 30,000 product applications and updated to Java 17. And I think this is a job I can, or I think from my perspective, I can think that this might be true because it's a very repetitive task, and therefore AI is more than perfect suited. And let's come to us at DFKP. So what we achieved within the last 12 months is that we increased our story point output with the same team size around 100%. There was a lot of help of AI included, but it was not purely AI. There was as well a lot of process optimization in it, and this comes always hand to hand. But what I want to show you today is different topics. So first of all, how you can set up a prototype in minutes, how you use GPTs for your story cards and as well for Jira, and then as well in the more complex solutions, how you can get from GPTs to automation, and then we'll end up the whole thing with vibe coding and agents itself. But first of all, I want to give you an introduction because I don't think that we as a B2B company are very well known to you. So what we are actually doing, we are one of the leading broker platforms in Germany for SME loans. So an SME company comes to us, we collect all the possible data points about this company, and we match it with the financing solutions or the banks, traditional banks, and as well neobanks has given us data points, and we combine this to make it even more complex with a face-to-face advisory or more a telephone advisory, and this everything blends together. And we were founded in 2019. We have brokered over consecutive years over 200 million euros. Currently 15 employees, and I think what's as well very interesting about us is that we are EBITDA profitable. And now I want to take you on our journey, what we have built for the business itself, and which is what is actually running. First of all, as you might know about Germany, that we have our love for paper, and that's the reason why the document processing was very, very important for us. And AI sorts, trims, and analyzes documents, and as well each extracts the key informations and assigns it to the correct application. So this is already up and running. It's still on improving, so we have it now live for over 6 months, and this was one of the biggest projects we have ever done there. Then as well, we use it to analyze the risk and the credit assessment and credit worthiness of our SME company. And what's as well very important for an SME company, you might imagine that not everything is based, or the truth is not always in the data points, but as well in soft factors. And therefore, we always have a call with our clients, and this call is then be transcribed, and the advisor on our end can focus on the call itself, and the relevant data will be then used for specific processes, and as well to show the bank and the financial solution provider how the client is doing above the data insights. And then, yeah, as well for certain process optimization things. And this is actually how we at DFKP are using at this very moment AI in our businesses. But now let's have a look at the tools and workflows in product management. So first of all, I think just to give you a quick overview of, I separated this whole thing. and it's topic by topic, and we'll start with you as a product manager have a concept and you want to get to a click dummy. And therefore, I've combined several tools, but I'll show you afterwards that you can use other tools as well. And I recorded everything just to make sure that we will stay in time, because these tools sometimes need a little bit more time. So what I've done there is, in the end, I've pasted in a prompt. I want to have a responsive interface for credit pre-application process, and I want to have 4 interfaces there. This prompt I just spoke into my assistant, but I'll show you in a minute as well what I recommend there as tools. And this prompt is then written by an LLM itself, and there I'm using Google Stitch. Google bought a tool some months ago. I'm a small startup from New York, and what it actually does, it transforms my prompt into interfaces. And as you can see here, we have, in a couple of minutes, we already have the interfaces, and there was no interference from my side there. When we can now change the interface itself, go from light to dark mode, or set a different color. And as well, we can change the typing, and then regenerate the whole stuff. Just to be aware, I've trimmed the video a little bit, because otherwise we would just wait and for Stitch to finish the job. But now we have the interfaces. I think that's cool, but now let's use it in the second flow. And therefore, Stitch is able to, or you can just copy the interfaces from Stitch, and then you can paste it into Figma. I think what saved a lot of time for us was that in Figma itself, it's already separated in the different containers in a good setting. As you can see here, it was a small mistake. He didn't took over the euro sign. This can happen. But this saved already a lot of time to set up a properly designed mockup in Figma itself. Figma now has as well a similar feature now. You can use that as well, play around. I think everyone has its own tool preference. And with this, we've got from the first idea to a click dummy, I would say in 10 minutes. And this was a great improvement in speed. What I like about Stitch as well, I think Figma can do it as well, that you can as well export it in code, so to use it in different workflows, and you're not bound to a certain tool like Figma if you don't use it. So this was one small example of how we use it to come from a prototype to from a concept and an idea to a clickable dummy in minutes. There are different tools, Figma sites I mentioned there, Google Stitch, or as well UI site. I don't know if I spell it correctly. But there, please be aware to as well focus on the quality itself. So use naming conventions and design tokens from day one, because otherwise it can get quite messy if you produce that much amount of output and you're not used to it, because otherwise you take a lot of time with the tool itself. And with this, you get to an 80% result in a very short time. And what we saw, that the output was enormous, but as well the quality decreased a lot, and so we had to work on the quality itself again. So now that I showed you that we can build very, very fast mockups, let's come to the user story. And I think every one of you, or the majority of you, might have already played around with ChatGPT or Anthropic on how to build a user story. And I want to show you now a workflow which works. I think it's very easy to set up, and it works very, very, very fast with a huge quality output. So what I use here is Aqua Voice. So I use my language very often. So I just talk to it, and the cleanup can be done afterwards, because with this, I can give it way more context than in the same amount of time in comparison to writing. There might be some of you who prefer writing in itself, but this is a very interesting way of doing it. Just be aware, if you do it on the browser in any LLM, and you talk and talk and talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you click on press or on send, it can disappear. So that is the reason why I use Aqua Voice, because I have Windows. I think on Mac it's as well possible to use the feature in Mac where just click a button and then it already integrates or captures your voice and transcribe it. I think that's possible as well. And what I've done there, I spoke this in, then I copied it, and then I have my own GPT. And this GPT has a prompt behind this whole thing, which has our DFKP user story and acceptance criteria guidelines in it. And what I told her, hey, I want to draft a new user story for a feature, a status tracker for our SME clients. And as you can see here, I already get the perfect user story with the acceptance criteria, and as well below stuff to think about. So, and now we will come to an issue which we experienced after that, because as well, the product managers, they created a lot of output then, but the LLM itself doesn't have always the context. For example, we have our CRM in Salesforce, and in a lot of times it doesn't know that, as you can see here, I'm just talking. Sorry for the interruption. I'm just talking into with voice air voice of the voice tool, and it can be pasted in every tool throughout your computer. And I just told them, hey, please revise the user story if it's mobile applicable. But what you always have to keep in mind is the context of the whole thing. We use Salesforce as our CRM, and Salesforce is very complex in itself. It has Apex classes, Apex code, it has flows, and our Salesforce is already quite mature. And if you use a tool like this or a prompt like this, it always treats your Salesforce, if it knows what it is, and if you told them to listen to it or to take it into consideration, it always treats it like it would be day one. So there will be user story or acceptance criteria in the user story, which are redundant, which are just trash. And that's one thing that you always have to keep in mind when you set up a process like that. That you really have to train your people to work with this whole thing afterwards to increase the quality and to keep up the quality, because this was a huge issue for us, and sometimes it still is until now. So we have created a user story in very, very short time, and you can set this up with prompt templates. You can as well set different GPTs for different process steps. So first, you can as well even drill this down more. Like you can set up a custom GPT on assistant who first writes the acceptance criteria, then after testing plan, then maybe you revise that with a different GPT. So you can increase the quality with different assistants. You can use different tools there. The ones who are allowed by the company to use OpenAI or Anthropic, they do the very good job there. And if you need a GDPR compliant tool, there are wrappers like LangDoc, TypeBigMind, where you are not where you're not locked into a certain LLM, and they all have basically the same possibilities there. And our biggest recommendation is use voice over your keyboard. With Aqua Voice or with a different tool, there's separate tools out there who do a really good job, and they improved a lot. So when I started using Aqua Voice 3 months ago, it was okay, but now even in 3 months, the improvement was incredible. So I already touched this a little bit because I now showed you how we and as well you can use GPTs very easily. And now let's dive into the automation topic. For us in product management, the majority of us are can't code, so we recommend to use automation tools like Make and NNN. And as well, some of you might already have seen this. LinkedIn is full of content like this, just screenshots of Make and NNN workflows, and they promise you, hey, you now save 200,000 euro, 200,000 euro sales advisor, stuff like that. And these workflows might work when they're not integrated in your current infrastructure, and as well when you just use this exact use case. How we use it at the moment is to build functional mockups to test hypotheses, and to not use any or to not use developer capacity for the developer capacity for our ideation. And this is actually an actual example for us. So we tested, hey, this was the first draft for our call transcription tool. And then we just tested, hey, does it work? And we set it up, took 50 minutes, and then we saw, okay, it works in our sandbox, and then we could take it from there and make it even better. You can as well use a variety of tools there. As well, if we go back to the GPT example of our user story, we could set it up in a way that Make takes this feedback and already pushes into Jira if we think the user story and the acceptance criteria are quite usable there. And I would always start with a very small workflow, and then increase it over time, because then you get to know your tool. Especially tool recommendation would be for me for non-technical guy Make, for technical guy NNN. And if this workflow is really smooth and running, then you can push it into production, or you rebuild it with LangChain. This is a lot more stable and as well a lot more how to say a lot more production enterprise grade ready. So I just saw a question. The problem with Stitch, it's hard to customize. Yes. I'll come to that in a minute, because the next thing was Lovable, and I want to show you how easy you can set up something with Lovable, and then I as well come to the problem with customizing it. So first of all, those who don't know Lovable, it's basically a tool to set up or to create as a product manager ready to use MVPs. I start here with a blank project with just a hero. So this is not so unsimilar to the thing we've done with Figma. It's clickable right from the beginning, but the biggest advantage of Lovable is that you can already create a database behind it. They work together with Supabase, and so you not only build a click dummy, but you build an actual MVP. For Lovable, there's the possibility to set up in here in this knowledge space design principles. So this is how you solve the whole thing with customization, um, especially from a layout or from a UX perspective. And what we do here, this is an actual example from a thing I just recorded at 2:30. We have built here, first of all, just a hero page, and then we added a login and replaced the hero page. And what it does, it actually changed the front end and it changed the back end. Because I already told them, hey, I want to as well have a user login afterwards. And then Lovable changes this whole thing, and within minutes, you have a ready-to-use mockup there, or an MVP there. And this is great if you want to test a feature, if you want to build a small product which is not connected to your current setup. And as you can see right now on the right, the login and signing functionalities are already working after, let's say, 5 minutes. So in this case, it recognized, hey, I don't have an account. Then I create an account, and afterwards I'll sign up. And after the sign up, it's a success. And what I've built there actually was a small app just to upload invoices. And the drag and drop and upload possibility was already working right after 5 minutes, just with 3 prompts. And this is quite astonishing and speeds up the process even more. One thing is, when you want to work with these tools, and as well regarding to your question, with Lovable, you can't change the whole customization within the app. In Stitch, there's the possibility to export it into Figma, and there you can really run the customization by your own, and as well how you are used to it. What I as well like about Lovable, that you can as well paste in complete GitHub templates and GitHub libraries. And in the style of vibe coding, you can as well just copy paste, as you can saw. You can just copy paste the GitHub library into it, and then it will work on that. So this is how we actually work at DFKP. We have experienced, especially with these vibe coding tools, some issues. First of all, it's very easy to set up the whole thing on your own if it's not integrated anywhere. But the integration into the current systems, this takes time. And we're currently experimenting a little bit with this whole thing on how we can use it as well to iterate it after it's gone live. We have different issues. First of all, if you vibe code something like this, you have the security topic. So I wouldn't recommend you to go live with this whole thing right after you finished it. And what's as well very problematic with tools like this, that you prompt something because you want to change this side, but it changes another one as well. And when you're a non-experienced developer or just a product manager with no tech background, you don't recognize this. And when you just want to push the code then into production, or maybe as well in a sandbox, the code might be changed on a different side, and you don't recognize it. And this is as well very important to know when you're experimenting this with tools like this in the day-to-day work. Lovable is especially for product managers who have no deep tech experience. If you are more a tech guy, then I would recommend you Cursor or GitHub Copilot. And this is something what we experiencing, or what we are experimenting right now, is to have agentic processes where the agents can decide on their own. What does it actually mean? You have a user input, and the user gives in an objective or a task, and then there is an agentic process running afterwards. And this agentic process is set up in a way that every agent by itself has all the context he needs to fulfill his task. This is, you have to really think through the whole process. What do you actually need? And what we have built at the moment is in NNN a tool which helps us to eliminate user stories who are not capable with our current tech system. So what we've did is we implemented some kind of team lead. So when the user story comes in, this is the team lead, and he analyzes what's needed, and then he redirects the task to another agent, and this agent has only the context with a specific role and the context he needs to fulfill this task. And with this setup, we have increased the quality in certain topics by a lot. This is a very, I would say, a very complex setup. You have to know what you're doing right there, but this can increase the quality of your processes enormous. And there's, well, a lot of tools around it. Beam AI is as well one, Relevance AI, and as well LangChain, as mentioned before. And the idea is always to provide, to trim down the task so small that you can provide this sub-agent or this agent enough context that he can fulfill the whole task. Because this is always problematic, and I come to that in a minute. First of all, I think the idea in the end will be, or maybe in 2 or 3 years, that every one of us has 5, 10 different agents who help on a day-to-day basis to fulfill your tasks. So, what are the key takeaways I want to give you today? First of all, AI is not a magic bullet. You can't just open ChatGPT and everything will work out fine. Sometimes we will as well have to convince or tell that our CEOs and managing directors. It takes time and it needs effort to fulfill the promise. And context is in the end the king. So I always think about, in a way, I want to explain my mother, and she's understanding what I'm doing. And bear in mind, my mother has no tech background. She has no experience in SME financing, and that's always the goal I want to achieve. And 2 things to achieve that is, I would always recommend you, if you have internal meetings with different stakeholders and as well in your product IT team, record as much as possible. But then the structure is relevant, because if you just have 2 hours of transcription and you'll dump it into the LLM, that this is not sufficient. So I would rather suggest you to set up a GPT, and this GPT's only task is to trim down the noise, to get to the relevant information, and then you have the context you need for the next steps. And as well, use your voice to provide even more language, to provide even more context. And be always aware about the integration and the quality. You can achieve with AI very fast an 80% solution, but the remaining 20%, to achieve that, it takes normally as well 80% of the time. And always think about the governance. It's very easy to think, okay, I don't need a developer anymore, and these guys are still needed because they know how code is structured and what's required for a good code. And last but not least, I think that product managers, and I think in the end everyone who master AI will lead in the end hybrid teams, both human and virtual, and as well as with humans, these team members have to be guided and they have to um, be trained as well, maybe then provide more context. So in the end, start small, learn fast, and scale responsibly. And if you haven't started with AI at the moment, pick one flow, one GPT, one prompt this week and start just building, because everything else will come when you're working with this.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I will share my screen now. Thank you everybody for listening. We will be taking your questions and we will have a Q&A session. If you haven't opened up slido.com, this is your chance to open it again. And while we take more questions, I will talk a little bit about product people. All right. Qualities. Okay. So when to engage with us? When do you contact us? When do you need us? We are interim product managers or product leaders. We cover parental leave. We also cover permanent position while you're hiring. It can take up to 9 months to hire the right fit for it. And while you're doing that, we can help you with the product management activities. We also do program management and product operations. We from scaling up products to from 0 to 1, or if your product teams need scaling up or personal development plans or so, we also provide that. We also do transformation acceleration, which means we shift the mindset from sales led to product led, and we also work on product strategy and team structure. These are some of the B2C clients that we have worked with in the previous months, years, and these are some of the B2B clients that we have worked with previously. Some stats before I jump onto questions. So we have supported over 600 plus teams. We have 40 in-house full-time employees who either go in as product leaders or product managers. We have 59% of the team is women, and in leadership we have about 60%. Okay, let's look at some of the questions. All right. The first question is, how could you create multiple screens at once and not just one? Yeah, and not just one. Sorry, that is the question.
Yeah, how could you create multiple screens? I think this goes to Stitch. You just ask it to. So if you use Stitch, tell them what screens do you need. You can already have a chat with ChatGPT before you paste in the prompt, and then in 80 to 90% of the time you'll receive multiple screens, as you saw in the example. For Lovable, yeah, that's only a prompting issue. Yes, then the second question is, can you elaborate on always plan for context and data structure? If you have, for example, the user story, this user story thing, and you just ask for a user story, hey, can we update in Salesforce when object X is doing something, then object Y should do another thing. But the context of this whole thing, that these two objects have automations running one in the Salesforce easy-to-use no-code flow tool, and the other one is programmed in Apex. And then maybe some fields have um, different dependencies as well. So when you just paste in this requirement, it will give you a pretty elaborate user story with acceptance criteria, but it don't work because the LLM didn't have the context that there are automations on it, and as well um, that this data structure is even existing because it's built on its own, or it was built individual and it's not a Salesforce standard feature. And this is the perfect example of to provide enough context and the data structure. And then we have a third question: what are the most efficient automations you created with the process with n8n and make for you and your team? Most efficient. That's hard to access. I think the most efficient was the transcription topic, because um, we applied this in our business already in our make automation, and we waited over 2 months, and it was over 2 months in production before we transferred it over into LangChain. And this was in the end just a decision because of our requirements or the need to run even more calls over it, and not because the process in make wasn't built up sufficient. So in the end, if you would have less calls, we would still have the make automation there. And was it with a specific? And the next question is: and was this automation with a specific persona, devs, designer, customers? Yeah, this was for our advisors, and so in the end, as well, in combination with our clients. So our most efficient process was for our production. And as well, one small thing, because we had user stories and acceptance criteria in Jira, and we set up in the beginning just a small search possibility in, I think, LangChain it was. And this was as well super efficient for us because we didn't have the need to search for tickets anymore.
All right. Thank you. The next question is, what is the best way to learn good prompting?
Um, don't learn it at all. Go to the OpenAI website. They have the perfect meta prompt, so the perfect solution how a prompt should be set up. And paste this into a GPT or an assistant, and then just talk your requirements into it, and you will get the perfect structure. I don't think that prompt engineering or context engineering will be a necessary tool to learn. Just always think about: will my mother understand this without having any experience? And then you've given enough context, and the structure will be done by the LLM. And then we have the next question: when connecting things like Google Maps API or other APIs, do you incur costs? How can you minimize this? Thank you very much for the great talk. In the end, if you have the need to deploy very fast, you can use, for example, Make. But Make is based on the automation. So every time a client or every time this Google Maps API process is hit, depending on the automations, it costs you money. And if you have a high volume product, then I would start in n8n if you're a more tech guy, as maybe as well already in the self-hosted version, because with that you reduce these costs completely. So you just have the maybe Google Maps API costs. I don't know if there are any, and the costs for running a server, and that's it. If you have an LLM included in there, always make sure if you need ChatGPT 4.0 or a very pricey product to run your automation, because you have different kind of costs. The costs for running your no-code tool and the costs for the token costs for the LLM. And sometimes ChatGPT 3.5 is more than sufficient for a very numb job like creating a meeting transcript afterwards, or um, just putting data from A to B, then 3.0 is more than sufficient and it costs you way less token. Then we have the next question. How do you behave when employer doesn't allow us to use AI because of the security reasons? Security reason is very, let's say, a very broad reason, because you have different kind of issues you have to think about. First of all, it's the GDPR issue, and then the issue of trusting your LLM provider to not train on your data. If you have an employer who doesn't allow you that, I would suggest him that you set up your own self-hosted LLM interface. There's one available out there. It's OpenWebUI if you have the possibilities, or you use Langdog, or there are I think 5 to 10 different tool providers alone in Germany who focused on the GDPR thing, because then you have the possibility to set up the interface. And then the next issue is, what LLM do I want to include there? And there are as well different possibilities. First of all, you can use Azure OpenAI. It's a system hosted by Microsoft, or it's in the end ChatGPT hosted by Microsoft in Stockholm. So you got the server issue out of the way, and you can as well use Mistral. It's a French provider. And as well, Google gives you the possibility to use specific LLMs who are hosted in Germany. And in the end, they have as well contracts that they don't train on that data. If your employer still doesn't believe that, you can host your own LLM. It's costly, because you have to update it all the time, and especially when you don't have resources based on that, then it becomes, I think, every few months you have to update your LLM there. But there are possibilities and solutions, and I think I would speak to my employer what are the specific security reasons and concerns. So next question, can you add a particular design into the vibe coding to change the look? Or can you use stitched, or can you use stitched and lovable with stitches output? Yeah. So yes and yes. First of all, in Lovable, there is as well plenty of YouTube videos around which shows you how you can change the appearance of your Lovable. In Lovable, in every project, you have the possibility in settings that you set there your design principles. These design principles can be set up with ChatGPT or any LLM. As well, based on what you have at the moment as a design principle, and with that, the complete Lovable coding project will have the same look and feel. But you as well can just copy paste your stitches output into Lovable, and it will then as well change. But always be aware, this can sometimes only be applied on one or two interfaces and maybe not on the complete flow. So I would rather suggest you to set up the design principles in in the lovable settings. Next question, is there a marketplace like GitHub for all kind of AI tools with rankings? Maybe, I don't know. So this is a question I can't answer because I have no knowledge about that. But in the end, ask Google, ask Perplexity, and you will find a tool there. And I would always be tool agnostic. So sometimes if you really want to double down in AI, always work with one or two tools because these tools changes, they come and go very quickly. And I would not focus on one tool alone. Next question, how do you coach and guide your product teams in exploring AI tools without getting lost in the maze out there? That's a good question. In the end, I'm the in our team the person who comes up with a new AI tool every new week. In the end, we just focus on, can this tool solve us, or is it just a nice to have? And we don't use a tool just for the sake of the tool use. We always check, is there a problem? Do we have a problem? And which tool can solve this problem for us? So in the end, we don't have that many tools in place for every use case, one or two. As I explained before, one tool is always the backup, or maybe one tool evolves a lot. But in the end, we don't use 100 or 20 different tools for our AI stuff. And I would always stick with the basics, use ChatGPT, Anthropic for and Anthropic for the standard stuff, and then if you have a specific need, search for a tool which solves your needs, which is big enough, and then stick to that. So the next question, how much has your ideation to market time improved by using AI? That's actually a tough question because if you have the possibility to test very quickly, then there is, in a lot of cases, the risk that you don't stick to an easy solution, and you rather go for the full possibility as a product manager. Because in the past, we had or we needed a lot of time to set up an MVP, and now it's quite easy and quite fast. And so the MVP is sometimes a little bit not MVP-like anymore. And I don't have data for that. But in the end, I showed you our story point output increased by 100%. But I can't tell you if the ideation to market is now increased or only the tool capabilities have increased. And
all right, I think that's it for the questions. Thank you so much, Thomas. This was a very hot topic right now, and it was very informational to see how we can build products or things that we do in our day-to-day lives using vibe coding, and how can we do it, right? So this was amazing. Thank you for the talk. Thank you for taking the questions. And for there are a few questions about the slides, so we don't share the slides, but this live stream will be available on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Twitch as well. So you can access it anytime. We also have our newsletter, and so you can also subscribe to that. We also talk about different product management topics there. And we are also hiring. So if you want to apply to product people, feel free to scan the code. I think this is it. The next live stream will be on how to be a productive product manager, and we will have it next Tuesday at the same time. Thank you so much, Thomas, for taking out the time again, and see you next week.
Bye.